Jingle, jingle, jangle. Hey, everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to Movies You Missed. I am John.
And I'm Vee.
Vee, how are you today?
I am great and definitely in the holiday spirit.
As am I. It is December. Here we are in the colder weather, and it's Christmas countdown here at Movies You Missed podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. For those that are new, we are a movie recommendation podcast. We like to discuss films that we both feel have fallen under the radar, maybe have been forgotten, maybe need revisiting, a little rehashing of said movie. This is our first episode of our Christmas movie countdown. Kind of like how we did our Halloween month, we are doing a Christmas month. And I'm very excited about today's episode as well because two great movies, one of which I have only seen, I think, one time, and I don't think I actually really paid that much attention when I saw it, so this was truly a first from beginning to end watch for me, and my choice is one of my most favorite films from 1996, so I can't wait to discuss both of those.
And I've actually only ever seen your pick once before, too.
Oh, man. Well, I can't wait to hear what you think.
Yes.
But before we do that, V and I do like to kind of reminisce about what we've been up to for the last week, and it seems that both of us have actually watched a couple of things that we'd like to discuss. V, you want to start us off?
Sure, and yes, I think both of us really dove into some new movies right after Thanksgiving. I think maybe our social batteries were a bit low after spending a bunch of time with people, right? We're like, okay, I'm just going to lock myself in my TV room and watch a bunch of stuff.
Pretty much what happened, yeah. Took my wife to work, and I sat my ass down, and I was like, I'm going to watch this one like I've been saying I'm going to watch for the last 6 months.
Nice. Well, I actually started my week off by going to the movie theater.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes, it'd been a couple months, so I was very excited to go back, and I watched Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Hey.
I am a fan of the MCU. I'm actually a fan of comic book movies in general because I love comic books and graphic novels.
Yes.
I had seen the original and was very interested to see how they handled the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman, and they did it beautifully.
Oh, did they?
It seemed respectful. It was very much in honor of him.
Fantastic.
You could tell the entire cast really missed him, and it seemed, and at least I hope this was a healing process for a lot of them, at least a grieving process.
Yeah.
But fuck, that movie was great. It was the second best comic book movie of this entire year, right after the Batman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was
Interesting.
great. It was fucking great. And the villain Namor is so cool. He's Mayan, or at least has this kind of Mayan background to him.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. You will definitely dig his entire story and his people. And it's just a really well done movie, even beyond just being a comic book movie. It's a well done movie.
Nice.
And Angela Bassett's performance as a grieving mother was so good. I fully believe that she deserves an Oscar nomination, even though it was a comic book movie.
Very, very interesting. I have not even seen a trailer for Wakanda Forever. The last movie that I saw in theaters was to see the re-release of Avatar with my wife, and we got a Black Adam trailer, but we did not get a Wakanda Forever trailer. So yeah, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, I definitely need to check out at some point in the future.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. And the other movie I watched this week was on streaming. It's actually an Apple TV Plus movie, Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell in Spirited.
Hey, my parents saw it. They loved it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You know, it's a musical. It definitely is a full-fledged musical. So if you're a fan of that or of the Scrooge story, which is A Christmas Carol, it's a really good take on it. And the music was really fun. I mean, I've actually listened to the soundtrack on Spotify since watching the movie.
Nice.
I was very impressed with both of their singing talents, Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds. I was kind of actually pleasantly surprised with their singing abilities. And yeah, it was a very fun movie. I highly recommend it for definitely families.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely want to check it out. It's in theaters here, but I do have a 3-month free subscription to Apple TV with my Samsung TV.
Yeah,
so I think that's how I'll watch it. Because I'm a big Christmas Carol fan, and I like just about any rendition.
I definitely recommend that movie too. It is certainly for people who enjoy musicals, but once you start getting into it, you're like, and there's one song in the movie where it really turned for me, where, you know, the first I'd say 30 or so minutes of the movie, I was like, yeah, it's okay. And then this one song comes in and the rest of the movie just slaps really hard. I was like, okay, This movie's great. So yeah, it took me a little bit to get into it. But after that, I was like, fuck, this movie's great.
Awesome. Yeah. I definitely will check it out.
And so those are the two movies that I've seen in the last week. And you mentioned you've seen some movies as well.
I did watch a few movies over the last week on top of these two, so technically I've watched 5. So the two that we chose, and then 3 new ones. And I gotta say, 2 out of these 3 were very enjoyable.
Oh.
And I'm going to start with the one that I liked the least.
I like that because I always like getting bad news first. When someone says like I have good news and bad news, I was like, give me the bad news first.
Bad
then you
news
can end
first,
on a high
always.
Note.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to start with the bad and end with the good.
Mm-hmm.
This one was the one I liked the least. This is a comic book movie. This is starring Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman. And
I told you.
Everybody else that's in all of the Avengers movies. Everybody, this is Thor: Love and Thunder. What a horrendous
pile of garbage.
Good Lord Almighty. It was pretty fucking bad. Now, granted, I don't mind the other 3 Thor movies. I like Dark World. Everyone's like, that's the worst one.
No,
I
it's
like
not.
Dark World.
Dark World's actually good.
Well, now Love and Thunder is the worst. Is definitely
Thor.
The worst one.
It's the second worst comic book movie of the whole year. It's only not the worst because Morbius came out this year.
Oh, that's right, Morbius. Never saw Morbius. I heard some bad stuff about Morbius.
Oh,
I don't think anybody liked Morbius.
No.
I might watch that one, I guess, because going back to the fact that I do like Jared Leto, but I still can't bring myself to push play on it. I'm just like, no, the trailer was so laughably bad.
You're going to text me after you watch it and be like, wow, that was a giant waste of 2 hours of my time. And I'm going to then say, I told you so.
Yeah, just like you said with Thor: Love and Thunder.
That's true, actually.
There were moments of Thor: Love and Thunder that were entertaining. You know, like maybe in the first half hour, there were like 3 or 4 parts that I thought were pretty funny.
And the thing for me is when you watch a movie and you see glimpses of how the movie could have been good, it actually pisses you off more than just watching a straight garbage movie. So
yeah.
Christian Bale.
I forgot he was in it.
Incredible villain, right? Exactly. And then
he's in it for
all of his scenes, and he's not that scary or menacing because it's a stupid PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
And then Russell Crowe being Zeus and them going to the gods could have been very cool, but they made it this slapstick, childish bullshit jokes, which was terrible. They stripped Thor and made jokes about his butt, and I was like, what are we, 15?
What is going on?
What is happening?
When the whole it's like, oh, tell me the right answer and you're not invited to the orgy. It's like, what accent are you trying to portray, Russell Crowe?
Was so dumb.
And I read online that he and Taika Waititi discussed the accent for a long time and landed on the original Greek accent. I'm like, is that really how the Greek sounded?
Should have spoken for a little bit longer then.
Maybe. Or, honestly, I was kind of hoping that Russell Crowe would break out in song like in Les Miserables and just make it even worse. I don't know.
Even worse.
Yeah,
so I agree. Yeah. But like I said, I told you so.
Yes, you did. You did. And I'm very glad I didn't see it in theaters. I'm glad I watched it at home for free. And again, it is beautiful for sure, but that doesn't make a movie good. And that's Thor: Love and Thunder for you. So anyway, moving on. I went Disney again, but actually I watched this one before Love and Thunder. I watched this one. I actually watched both of these movies on the same day. And I texted you about this and said, which one of these should I watch? And you told me to watch the other one, so I started with that one. And that one is Lightyear, which is voiced by Chris Evans. There's also voice acting from Keke Palmer, Peter Sohn, Taika Waititi, and a couple other people. A lot of people were up in arms about Tim Allen not being the voice of Buzz Lightyear. Mm-hmm. And I think they did a fine job with Chris Evans. It didn't sound like Chris Evans. So Lightyear actually was a little longer than I thought it was going to be. It was just under an hour and 50 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And the first hour and 10 minutes were awesome. They were awesome. I am going to be completely on record and tell you that if that movie ended where I felt it should have and been an hour and 10 minutes long, the movie would have been fucking fantastic. But it really took a very, very weird turn for me, and I think that's why a lot of people didn't like it. Once this little, quote-unquote twist kind of goes down in Lightyear, that's when everybody got lost. And I'm going to be honest, because I did too. I was sitting there like, what the fuck is this? It was very, very weird. I'm not going to get into it. No spoilers here. However, suffice to say, the animation is gorgeous, absolutely stunning. They open the movie with, in 1994, there was a young boy named Andy who got a Buzz Lightyear toy that ended up being one of his favorite toys based off of a movie. This is that movie. So they really tied in
nice.
Toy Story.
Yeah.
Thought that they did that very well. And it's a very, very fascinating movie because you think, he's just going to fight Emperor Zurg. That's not even the story of Buzz Lightyear. And I got to say, I finished Lightyear without that half hour. I kind of forgot about that last half hour. But overall, I gave Lightyear a full 3.5 stars because animation was great, music was great, the cat was awesome. But yeah, I would definitely watch Lightyear again, even with the problematic last 30 minutes because, like I just mentioned with Thor Love and Thunder, it is beautiful to look at, and it kind of gives you a sense of like, wow, the animation is really coming along, minus the fact that we're going to go see Avatar Way of Water, and Avatar is so old and how gorgeous that movie still is. There's still some special effects and things that are coming out these days that really do wow you, and Lightyear had a lot of that for me in it, and I would recommend Lightyear to anybody.
Really?
Yeah, I would, and I wish I would have seen it in the theaters. It ended, I was like, damn, I really should have fucking seen that in theaters. So that's Lightyear and Thor Love and Thunder, and the final one that I watched was a movie that's been getting a lot of flack lately because of, the personal aspect of the cast. I'm talking about the Olivia Wilde directed Don't Worry Darling. Fucking good flick.
Really?
I liked it. I did like it. Amy watched it with me. Harry Styles, thumbs up, high in the sky. Awesome performance. Chris Pine kind of reminded me a little bit of Kirk, a little bit, not a whole lot of range going on with his character. I know he based his character off of one of those cult leaders or religious leaders, something like that, and there's been a lot of stuff going back and forth with that, but I've only seen Olivia Wilde direct once before, and that was Booksmart, and Booksmart had my soul. Like, it made me laugh so fucking hard that I was like, I'll watch anything Olivia Wilde does. I've also worked with Olivia Wilde, like I've discussed in the past. But Don't Worry Darling was a very cool take on like a mix of like Ready Player One and Stepford Wives. And the twist in the final like half hour of the movie, I truly didn't see coming at all. And I would recommend, I gave that one 3.5 stars too. It was beautifully shot. It really told the story, I think, the way Olivia Wilde wanted it to be told, like the way that it's, projected on screen. The editing is really good. Florence Pugh, awesome. So if anybody's interested, Don't Worry Darling is on HBO Max now. In order of my liking, Don't Worry Darling, Lightyear, and Thor Love and Thunder is how that would go for me.
Okay, nice.
I always love watching movies, even if it's the movies that we have chosen for this podcast. I love discussing movies, and it's just so much fun. So I'm looking forward to getting into the winter wonderland of things now. And V, I think you start us off.
I do, and I'm very excited to discuss this movie because there is some debate on whether or not it is a Christmas movie.
That's exactly right.
This is 1988's Die Hard.
Nice. 1988. We've done an 88-year movie already.
Yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
That's right. Not 89 like we thought it was.
Like you thought it was.
That I thought it was. Trying to get us involved. Yeah, that was me.
Die Hard stars Bruce Willis and Alan Rickman. Fantastically done.
Oh, yeah.
It is a classic action movie, and I will argue it is a classic Christmas movie, and I'll get into why in a minute. For anyone who hasn't seen Die Hard, the original, it is about a cop from New York who is traveling to see his wife, who took a job in LA about 6 months ago. And it seems like their marriage is pretty rocky. He decided not to move to LA to support her with her new job. And there's some tension there. And it seems like he's, going out there, and it's a pretty significant trip because they're going to talk, and he's going to visit, and he's going to see his kids, and maybe there's going to be a discussion on, whether or not they stay together. But instead of going to her new home in LA, from the airport, he actually goes to her office. It is because she's still at work, and there is a holiday party happening for the company that she works for. Goes up to this holiday party. It's the 80s, so there's people hooking up in offices. There's a bunch of coke. It's a classic
it's very
80s holiday party at an office.
Very much so. Even though it's Nakatomi Plaza, those that have lived in Southern California know exactly where this was shot, and this was actually the perfect place to have a cocaine-filled party.
Exactly.
Right down the street from Fox Studios.
And so he meets up with his wife. They have a bit of an awkward conversation, but he, seems like he's making an effort, and he's changing in her office. And she says, look, I gotta go and say goodbye to some people. Just, finish up here and I'll see you in a minute. And he's like, great. At that point, we see a group of men starting to take over this building. They shoot the guard at the front desk.
I actually really liked that scene.
Yes.
Because in all seriousness, in a movie where a building's about to be taken over, there's always that moment where one of the thugs is going to be buddy-buddy with the security guard and then kill him. I love the dialogue, how one of the guys is like, man, he's like talking about the basketball game.
Yeah.
And then they kill the guard and he goes, 2 points, and jumps over the desk and kicks the guy out of the way. It's like, fuck. That's brutal. There was literally no humanity in any of those terrorists.
No, none whatsoever. And they lug in a bunch of equipment, and the main group of them get into an elevator and pop out in the middle of this party.
Yeah.
They then take everyone hostage and start firing weapons, and lo and behold, Bruce Willis is in his wife's office and hears all this and happens to slip away and up to a couple floors above what's happening. And this group of men who take over, turns out that they're there as thieves and have this really actually well thought out plan of how to complete this heist. But unfortunately, Bruce Willis is there and he's about to ruin all of their well laid plans.
So true. I love that whole thing. I really like how the takedown of the party happens. I like that. In a sense, they don't just go in guns blazing. I mean, in a way they do, but they don't kill anybody.
Nope.
And then John McClane, Bruce Willis, does end up getting through to a different floor, and that's, yeah. I really like the intricacy of how all that went down in just a very short period of time, and it it keeps the story moving. But he just jumps into action immediately, and he's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And he has a gun, so he's already kind of ready for the charge.
Yeah, and he spends the rest of the movie just fucking up their night.
Hell yeah, he does. So awesome.
Yes. And as you mentioned, the lead character of this movie is John McClane, played by Bruce Willis. Alan Rickman plays a German named Hans Gruber.
Yes.
Classic characters in cinema. And there's some really great pieces of this film. First of all, being that Bruce Willis as John McClane has realistic injuries from the get-go. This is a very realistic movie, unlike Tom Cruise action movies where he never bleeds.
Yes.
There are some really great one-liners in this movie, too, that a lot of people will recognize. A couple of my favorites are, when he's stuck in the air vent, and he's like, "Oh, come to LA, we'll hang out, have a few laughs," and he's all pissed about it. And then when he finally, so one of the things that John McClane really tries to do during this takeover and this hostage situation is he tries to let outsiders know what's going on. I mean, he's a cop. He's basically calling for backup at this point. And so he tries several different things, and these calls for help keep getting foiled or stopped by this group of criminals. And finally, he gets a cop to show up, and it seems like everything's under control. So the cop starts to leave, and he throws the body of
that was so good.
Of one of the terrorists
So
out the window.
funny.
He's like, "Welcome to the party, pal."
Yeah. And I love the actor that plays the cop so much.
Yes, that is Reginald VelJohnson, and he's most well known for Family Matters, the show with Urkel in it, right?
Yep, he is Carl Winslow in Family Matters.
Yes, he is.
For 9 seasons, I think. And that series, I think, started in 88 as well. And went to the late 90s. I've watched every episode as a child. And my wife and I actually, because it was just on one of the streamers, we watched it from beginning to end again. And my good holy fucking God, that show holds up so goddamn well. It is so fucking funny. Reginald VelJohnson and Jaleel White just played off each other so fucking well in that show.
I've never seen a single episode.
Are you kidding me?
No.
You have got to be kidding me. You've never watched a single episode of Family Matters?
Mm-mm.
Oh, my Lord. Well, I'm actually kind of surprised at this. You have never seen an episode of Family Matters.
Yeah, in the 90s, I didn't watch a lot of, what was it? The ABC Family Night? What was it called?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, what the hell was it called? Because it was Family Matters, Boy Meets World, I think Step by Step.
Haven't seen any of those.
Oh my God, you haven't seen Boy Meets World?
Nope.
What the hell? Ha! It was called TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. Yeah, TGIF was on ABC on Friday nights. Thank God it's Friday.
So I can tell you exactly why I never watched any of the shows, because I spent my Friday nights in the 90s watching The X-Files on Fox.
Well, there you go. That makes sense.
And then on Sundays, I watch The Simpsons.
Ah, yes.
So yeah, that's the cop on the ground who helps John McClane, Bruce Willis's character. And yeah, like you said, he's great in it. I like their back and forth as well. Great conversations that they have together. And yeah, this is just a great action movie. It definitely holds up. It's a lot of fun, a lot of practical effects, which, as our listeners know, John and I absolutely love.
Yes.
And the reason why I picked it for this month, and I believe that this is a Christmas movie for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, because the music in the movie is Christmas songs.
Definitely. Yeah. I like that.
The holiday is, in fact, a plot point. He's going to LA for Christmas to visit her. They are having a holiday party, which is how the terrorist group is able to take over and hold them hostage.
Mm-hmm.
It's a topic of conversations. Decorations are everywhere and play a part in the plot and moving the story along. So for all of those reasons, I definitely put this in the Christmas movie category.
I will fully agree with you on that. And
Sweet.
Like I said,
okay.
I think I've only seen this movie, and this had to have been likely on TV with commercial breaks and full, censorship and everything like that.
Half of the dialogue was cut then, because they swear all the time in this movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so this was my first true experience watching Die Hard, and I had a fucking great time with it. And I will definitely watch it again at Christmas time, likely from here on out.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
Beyond it being a badass action movie, there's a lot of really funny moments, and
yes.
I think one of my favorite parts is when Sergeant Al Powell, who is played by Reginald VelJohnson, he asks him what he should call John McClane because he doesn't want to give his name out on the radio waves yet, and he goes, "Call me Roy," and we find out he's asking him to be called Roy because he loves Roy Rogers. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of quips in the movie about Bruce Willis being a cowboy cop that were pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the reasons why the most classic line of Die Hard, which is then spoken in every subsequent Die Hard movie, is Yippee-ki-yay.
Motherfucker. I like that.
Classic. Yes.
Mr. Mystery Guest. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Unless you want to open the front door for me.
No, I'm afraid not. But you have me at a loss. You know my name, but who are you? Just another American who saw too many movies as a child? Another orphan of a bankrupt culture who thinks he's John Wayne, Rambo, Marshall Dillon?
I was always kind of partial to Roy Rogers, actually. I really like those sequin shirts.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
So Bruce Willis is the star of this movie and every subsequent Die Hard movie in the series, which there are 5 of. 3 of them are good.
You're saying Live Free, Die Hard is not good?
No, I'm saying Live Free, Die Hard is great.
Oh, what's the other ones that aren't good then?
So Die Hard 2 is terrible, and it takes place in an airport. Also during Christmas, it's terrible. Die Hard with a Vengeance stars Samuel L. Jackson and Jeremy Irons, and it's fucking great.
Was that number 3?
That is number 3.
Okay. And I did see Live Free or Die Hard in theaters, and I remember thinking that it was a fucking blast.
Yes.
But so ridiculously unbelievable when he's like hanging onto that fighter jet on the freeway. I was just kind of like, how is he going to survive this?
Yeah. Timothy
And yet he
Olyphant
does.
is the bad guy, though, and that was great. So
Justin Long was in that one too, I think.
And
Kevin Smith, which is crazy.
That's
Because if you think about it, just right around that same time, they did Cop Out, which... has been completely destroyed by everybody that saw it, including myself, because it's not a good movie.
Yes, and they did not get along on set either. And I actually, Live Free or Die Hard, that was a movie that I saw on a first date once, which is great.
Wow.
So
nice.
That was fun. And then the last one is A Good Day to Die Hard, and that had Jai Courtney in it, and that was a fucking terrible movie.
Was that the latest one?
That was the very last one they ever made, and that came out in 2013.
A Good Day to Die Hard. I wonder if I saw that one too. I might have seen that one.
And we've spoken about Bruce Willis in a very early episode, or I think around episode 7, because he was in Lucky Number 11.
Yes, he was.
And he's
Mr. Good Cat.
He is Mr. Good Cat in Lucky Number 11, which is a fantastic movie. Definitely check that out if you haven't, and listen to the episode where we discuss it.
Yes.
He's been in some movies with numbers in them, though, which is interesting, because
Bruce Willis has?
Yeah, so he's been in The Fifth Element.
Yes.
The Sixth Sense.
Right.
And Lucky Number 11.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, he, of course, is also recognizable from Pulp Fiction, where he plays Butch.
Yes.
Sin City, which both you and I are big fans of.
Hardigan, such a badass character.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love when I honestly, every time I watch Sin City, I always forget that we come back to Hardigan's story.
Yes.
And I love that we end on Hardigan's story. It's
Yes.
so awesome.
So good.
Damn, it's so good.
Looper, with Joseph
I
Gordon-Levitt.
like Looper. I know you don't like it.
What? I love that movie.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't like Looper. We had talked about Ray and Johnson movies, and you're like, I thought Looper was terrible.
I think you're thinking of
guess
your other
so.
co-host.
Maybe I am, yes.
No, I love that movie, and it's on my list. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, really? I do like Looper. Looper's good. That's the only that and Brick are Ray and Johnson's movies that I liked. The rest of them are not good.
And then lastly, because I know you're a big fan of it, Armageddon.
Yes. Harry Stamper. So awesome. Yes, Armageddon's awesome.
Alan Rickman plays the villain in this movie.
He does?
It was his first role in a movie.
No shit. Was it really? That was his first. Wow.
Yeah. Of course, everybody recognizes Alan Rickman as Snape in the Harry Potter series. So I actually first saw him in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves as the sheriff of Nottingham. Oh my God, he makes that movie. He makes that movie amazing. He's fucking great.
I haven't seen that one. That's the Kevin Costner, Christian Slater. I have not seen that one in so long.
So fucking good in it. I mean, that's the reason the movie's so good. That's the only reason the movie's good. Yeah, he's great in it. And then, of course, which movie we discuss a lot, Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, so good. He is so fucking awesome in Galaxy Quest.
Grab Thar's hammer. God, he's so good in that.
I love when they're like, where are you going? He goes, to find a pub. And they're in space on a different spaceship. And he can't, very clearly not going to find a pub. Yeah.
He's just fucking over it. He is also in another Christmas movie, Love Actually. Which I do not like that movie.
I don't like it either. There was just some whole thing on ABC about like 20 years of Love Actually.
I was like, nope.
And it made me want to give it another shot, but it's also, it wasn't enough to, no.
And his storyline in Love Actually is he's a cheating bastard who cheats on the lovely Emma Thompson.
Like no shit.
Big old asshole, yeah. And then he is in 2 movies that a lot of people haven't seen, but they should. First of all, Dogma, speaking of Kevin Smith.
Oh, yeah, he is in Dogma. Dogma's a fucking weird movie.
It's great. And then lastly, he's in a Western that I'm a big fan of that stars Tom Selleck. It's a movie called Quigley Down Under. And he's also a villain in that movie.
Is he really?
Yeah. And the last person I want to talk about in this movie is Clarence Gilliard Jr. He played Theo, the tech guy with the glasses.
Oh, yeah. He was awesome.
Yeah. He's great. He had a lot of great jokes, and he just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I loved him in that movie. He unfortunately died a few days ago.
No way.
Yeah, on November 28th. So I just wanted to mention him because
my gosh.
He's great in this movie. He also plays Sundown, one of the pilots in the original Top Gun. And
no fucking way.
Yeah. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot of people would probably recognize him from if they ever watched the 90s show Walker, Texas Ranger, because he was Trevette for the entire run, I think. So
I never watched Walker, Texas Ranger with...
I used to as a kid, Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris, thank you.
Oh, yeah, classic 90s.
It's like, what is that guy's name? And that Chuck Norris is still alive, right?
Yeah, he is.
But wasn't he like 75, 30 years ago? So it's like, how old is this guy now?
Chuck Norris won't die. I never knew this until this podcast and this week researching this movie. This is based on a book.
What?
Right?
Is it really?
A novel from 1979 called Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Does it even say based on a novel in the opening credits? I must not have been paying attention.
I guess I wasn't paying attention. I think it does, actually, because I think I saw it just really briefly. I was like, based on a novel, and so I had to look it up. I think it does, actually. And so, yeah, it's, and I looked up the plot a little bit, and it does actually, it is definitely based on that book.
Crazy.
Yeah. And then.
That's so funny.
I know, right? Who'd have thought? And then the screenwriters for this movie, there's two of them. There's Jeb Stewart, who also wrote Just Cause with Sean Connery and Lawrence Fishburne. And Switchback, a thriller that I've suggested to you with Dennis Quaid and Danny Glover and Jared Leto.
Oh.
And he also wrote The Fugitive.
Oh, nice.
Which is fucking great. Yeah, so.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
So that was Jeb Stewart. And then Steven Souza is the second writer on this movie. He wrote Judge Dredd.
Hey, OG Judge Dredd.
OG Judge Dredd, yeah.
Okay.
Street Fighter with Raul Julia and Jean-Claude Van Damme. The Flintstones live-action movie, which I'm pretty sure you're a fan of.
I am, and I was thinking about that movie today, actually, driving into work, yeah.
Steven Souza also wrote Hudson Hawk, which is another Bruce Willis movie. And he also wrote Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Nice. Never saw that one.
Me either, but...
Whoopi Goldberg, right?
Yeah, and then lastly, he wrote two Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. The Running Man, which is very good.
I've never seen that one.
Oh, that one's good. And Commando, which is
never saw that one
less
either.
Good.
It's less good.
Yeah. And lastly, John McTiernan directed this movie, which is fucking dope. He also directed The 13th Warrior, which is a really underrated Antonio Banderas movie
Is that a good one?
Really fucking cool. Yeah, it's a really interesting movie. I think it's a cool action movie. It completely bombed in the box office, but I'm actually a really big fan of it.
I remember when that came out.
Mm-hmm.
I still, to this day, I've never seen it.
No, it's good. And he also directed the remake of The Thomas Crown Affair with Rene Russo and Pierce Brosnan, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
That is a bitchin' movie.
It is a bitchin' movie. He then directed Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance, which is great because he skipped the shit that was Die Hard 2. He directed Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No way!
Mm-hmm.
That is a awesome movie.
I haven't seen it.
What?
I've never seen Last Action Hero.
Oh, you have... Oh, my God. Last Action Hero is awesome. Totally badass flick from the 90s.
He also directed a movie that a lot of people haven't seen, but I'm a big fan of, called Medicine Man with Sean Connery and Lorraine Bracco. I really enjoyed that movie.
I don't think I've even heard of that one.
Right?
Whoa.
He also directed The Hunt for Red October, another Sean Connery movie.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, he directed Predator.
Damn, he and Arnold spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, and that movie's fucking great. So John McTiernan,
Predator's badass.
Great 80s, early 90s action movie director.
Hell yeah.
That's
a great resume.
Yeah. And as John mentioned, the fictional Nakatomi Plaza is the headquarters for 20th Century Studios.
Yes, it is.
It is a real building, which is what you alluded to earlier in the episode. Because the studio used one of its own buildings, it didn't have to hold back on stunts and action sequences, so they are real full-scale explosions that happen in this movie, which is so fucking cool.
Hell yeah.
And because it was their own building, Jeb Stewart, one of the writers, as I mentioned, he did a tour of the building and immediately incorporated some of the locations and objects that he found into the screenplay itself, which is so dope.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So that Christmas party that's happening all the way up there, that's actually all the way up there? It's not like down on a soundstage or anything like that?
Nope, it's in the building.
It's all practical. Hell yeah.
They used a bunch
Die
of
Hard
offices.
is even better now.
Right? I know. They used a bunch of offices that they could either A, clear out, or B, were empty.
That is so bitchin' because we've talked about movies that are like, like What Lies Beneath. Oh, yeah, all the interior of the house was shot on a soundstage, but the exterior was built in Maine. So the fact that they used... the practicality.
Cool?
So badass.
And the classic outfit for John McClane in the Die Hard movies is a white undershirt.
Yes, indeed.
The costume department had 17 of them in various stages of degradation on hand for Bruce Willis.
Nice. That's awesome.
And one of them was donated to the Smithsonian by Bruce Willis in 2007.
Oh, that's badass.
And I'm sure another one ended up in Planet Hollywood because
Probably.
Bruce Willis owned part of Planet Hollywood with Arnold Schwarzenegger, actually, of all people.
No shit.
Oh, yeah.
That's fucking
that.
cool. I did not know. I used to love Planet Hollywood
Me
as a
too.
kid.
Yeah, me
Oh
as
my
a kid.
God.
Yeah.
So I completely get the fact that wardrobe and makeup had 17 shirts available for Bruce Willis. That shit does exist. So people are like, man, he's wearing the same shirt for how long? Oh, no. There are many different shirts, and that is the magic of movie making, and that's why it all looks the same. If it's shot over the course of like a day, quote unquote, like Die Hard is shot over the course of, a night, then he's in the same clothes the entire time, as is everybody else. So I really like knowing that there were 17 different shirts in a stage of, bloodiness and dirtiness for Bruce Willis over the course of that production. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, the cinematographer for this movie was Jean de Bont.
No way!
I know, right?
Are you kidding me?
Right?
Jean de Bont DP'd Die Hard and then almost 10 years later directed fucking Twister?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
So
Holy
awesome.
shit. That is
Yes.
mind-boggling to me. I'm so glad I didn't IMDb any of this fucking movie, because sometimes I do, just to be like, oh, who is this? Who is that? I need to just stop doing that and let you tell me for reactions just like that, because that was tried and true. I did not know Jean de Bont was the DP of fucking Die Hard. That is awesome.
Me either, and I got so excited when I read it. I was like, fuck
It's
yeah.
so badass.
Yes, and so for our listeners, Jean de Bont, first of all, he's a director of photography on Lethal Weapon 3, Basic Instinct, The Hunt for Red October, Cujo.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he has more cinematography credits than he does director credits.
Wow.
And then he went on to direct Speed, Speed 2, Twister, and Tomb Raider 2.
Oh my
Guy's
gosh.
awesome.
I mean, Speed 2 Cruise Control is a masterpiece. I've said this before.
You know you have. And I laugh every time you say it because you say it so seriously. Oh my God.
I'm not serious.
No, he's not at all, I promise.
I just love Willem Dafoe in that movie, and I think Jason Patrick was so god-awful in that movie. That movie sucks, by the way.
so
Speed 2 Cruise
terrible.
Control sucks so bad. And Speed is okay. It's not a great movie, especially when they try and jump that gap on the freeway. It's like, oh, please. Even for the 90s, you're like, no fucking way.
I know, even when it came out, I turned to my dad, I was like, Dad, could that really happen? He's like, no.
Yeah, how can the bus all of a sudden get lifted by the invisible angels of fucking downtown Los Angeles to make that gap? Oh, unbelievable. So fucking funny.
But during the making of Die Hard, he got trapped in an elevator.
No.
And this later gave him the inspiration for the opening scene of Speed.
No shit.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, which is just a great tie-in.
That is really cool. I haven't seen the original Speed in a long time, and I know they just released like the Steelbook 4K re-release, like transfer. I don't think it's one I need to own. I mean, granted, Dennis Hopper's badass in that movie. So is Sandra Bullock and Keanu. I mean, everybody's good. Speed's a good movie.
Yeah, see,
But,
you just answered
it's-
your own question.
I guess so, yeah. No, Speed is good, minus that jump on the freeway.
Yes, minus the jump on the freeway.
But,
It's great.
Yeah, Speed 2 Cruise Control is a masterpiece.
It is not at all.
It is not.
It is one of the
It
worst
is.
movies I've ever seen
Pause
in my
for
life.
dramatic effect. Not a masterpiece.
And so, as I mentioned, Alan Rickman plays Hans Gruber, the classic villain. Fantastic in this movie. And at the same time, even though he is typecast as a villain for most of his career, he is a gem of a person. I've heard great things from a lot of his co-stars in interviews, on the 30th anniversary of Die Hard. Bonnie Bedelia, who plays Holly, Bruce Willis's wife in the movie, the first thing she thinks of when someone mentions Die Hard is Alan Rickman, because they actually share a lot of scenes together, more so than even Bruce Willis.
That's true, right.
And they became friends and had lunch together every day while shooting the movie. And she expressed...
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she just always talks about how lovely and gentle Alan Rickman was in real life. And
nice.
For his wedding in 2012, he was actually married in the wine country in Northern California.
Oh.
At the winery that my friend manages.
Oh, very cool.
And she went on and on about how wonderful he was and what a beautiful wedding it was and just how low-key and down-to-earth and just a really, again, gentle person he was. And so I can tell you from, my friend's story to me that, yeah, he was a really great guy.
That's awesome. That's so awesome to hear. I've heard the same, that he really loved what he did, and the fact that Die Hard was his first film, I think he was in his 40s or something like that already, wasn't he? Like, that was the one thing about Alan Rickman after he did very unfortunately pass away recently. Everyone was like, his first movie, he was only like 40-something. And then he spent however many, like a decade plus with Harry Potter as Snape. And the crazy thing about the Harry Potter universe is, we've mentioned it before, it gets darker and darker, but I love his character arc, and I love the fact, I just love the way he, I mean, it's not a spoiler anymore, I just love the way he goes out. Like, I just think Snape was one hell of a character.
Yes.
And Alan Rickman, he's always been good. It usually would be a reason to watch a movie was because his name was in the credits.
And the Snape character, everybody knows that he absolutely embodied that role, and he was cast as Snape, and then everybody else who was supposedly, Harry's parents and their friends and everything like that had to then be aged up because Alan Rickman was Snape, which is awesome. Yeah. And the reason why he was discovered was in the spring of '87, John McTiernan and the producer Joel Silver attended a performance of the play Dangerous Liaisons. And Alan Rickman played the evil Viscount de Valmont, and immediately they realized they had found Hans Gruber and tried to hire him on the spot.
Wow, that's really cool. Joel Silver was a producer?
He was, yeah.
That's awesome. I met him once.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And because it was his first movie, Alan Rickman nearly passed up on the role of Hans Gruber because he was appalled by the idea that his first role would be a villain in an action film, and he was worried about being typecast. And to a degree, he was right.
Interesting.
Because he's classically known as a villain now.
Sure. That's true.
And this is Bruce Willis's favorite role. He's always loved being John McClane. Oh, yeah. Bruce Willis, even though it's his favorite role, Bruce Willis actually suffered permanent hearing loss while shooting one of the scenes. When he's under the table and shoots back at that terrorist, he suffered severe hearing damage to his left ear and actually lost like 2/3 of his hearing for the rest of his life in his left ear.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah. He's actually worn a hearing aid for years, unbeknownst to most fans.
Wow. Yeah, I would never have guessed that.
Right? As I've mentioned previously, I walked a red carpet next to Bruce Willis. I went to the Over the Hedge premiere, and he was actually right
What?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What were you doing there?
Going to a movie premiere.
Oh, okay. Got it. I thought like you worked on it or something like that.
No. Just going to the premiere, and he was actually right behind me. And I still remember looking at him and going, I don't really see it. He's this big movie star. I'm like, yeah, he's okay looking, but I don't really see it. And then he smiled at me and said hi, and I was like, oh shit, okay. Yes.
You were like Demi Moore in the early 90s.
Oh my God. I was like, wow, okay. Yeah, I see it now. But that's funny. He was really cool, and we just said hi to each other. I didn't talk to him too much, but that's
enough though. It
was very fun to walk the red carpet next to him.
And I will say that there are moments of Over the Hedge that are laugh out loud hilarious.
Oh, I love that movie. So that's Die Hard. This film is great. It holds up. It's a fantastic action movie. It's a lot of fun. It is also a great Christmas movie, and I'm not the only one who thinks so, because 20th Century Fox formally admitted that Die Hard was a Christmas movie after stating that it's the greatest Christmas story ever told in a new trailer to mark the 30th anniversary of the film. That was now a little while ago, because this film's now over 30 years old.
Yeah.
And so even though originally it was released in July of 1988, I firmly believe that this is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, there are times where Christmas movies come out in the summertime, and that still happens, and that's totally fine. You don't necessarily need to be in the month of December to watch a Christmas movie. There are holiday movies that really just resonate throughout the year, and also they make you feel good. And not that Die Hard isn't necessarily a quote-unquote feel-good movie, but it's just such a badass movie that you're like, you could watch it any time of the year and around Christmas and be like, fuck yeah, Die Hard, it's awesome. It's good stuff.
I'm so glad you liked it. And it was actually selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress in 2017 for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
Hey, we've had a couple of movies that have been selected by that. I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and the reason why this is the original and there are a ton of subsequent movies in this series, is because it had a budget of $28 million.
That's it?
That is it. For all those big-ass explosions, it only had a budget of $28 million.
That is nuts.
Pretty fantastic. But it made almost $83 million in the United States.
Hell yeah.
And $141 million worldwide.
Holy mackerel.
Which is why they then made 4 more movies.
That makes a complete load of sense then. Yeah. Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
What a success. Good for everybody involved.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, it definitely holds up, and you can watch it right now on Stars if you have a subscription.
And that is how I watched it, but I can tell you right now, it will be in my physical copy library shortly.
Yay!
I don't know if I'll get the whole box set, if it even exists, but I would love to have the first Die Hard.
Don't get the whole box set because...
Number 2 is so bad.
Yeah, 40% of them are bad. 3 are good. 3 out of 5 are great.
3 out of 5, if it's a decent price, maybe I'll just get them all and just not watch.
I'm really glad you liked it, and that is my first Christmas movie pick this month. And
Great pick indeed.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And now I'm happy to turn the mic over to you for your first holiday pick.
Well, thank you, V. I'm glad you picked Die Hard because, again, I watched it from beginning to end uncensored, and it was a great blast of a time. Definitely texted you during the watching of it because there was so many good moments in that movie. And I really liked it. I would like to have it in my collection. But turning the tables now, going into mine, which is definitely a Christmas movie. It starts out on the day before Christmas Eve, on December 23rd. This movie stars Rita Wilson, Sinbad, Jake Lloyd, Phil Hartman, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 1996 fucking masterpiece, Jingle All the Way. Oh, hell yes.
And you actually mean it when you say masterpiece.
I do, actually, yes. And if anybody wants to fight me, I have got 2 fists right here. I love Jingle All the Way. I can't get enough of it. I'm 36 years old. I saw this movie in theaters when it was released. And of course, it resonated more with my parents than myself at that time, because as much as I wanted the Green Ranger or the White Ranger Power Ranger toy, I didn't know what my parents were fucking going through to get me those goddamn toys.
Right.
And then I saw Jingle All the Way, and my mom reassured me that she did very similar things. Now, granted, she didn't get as crazy as Sinbad or Schwartz in this movie. Myron is played by Sinbad, and Howard Langston is played by Schwarzenegger. So for those that don't know what the premise of Jingle All the Way is, here it is. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a guy named Howard Langston, and he is a corporate head. They never really pinpoint
sales
it.
Director, yeah.
Right, yeah. And I love the opening scene of his introduction because he tells everybody on the phone that they're his number 1 customer.
Just remember.
And then, you're my number 1 customer. And then his wife calls because he's running late to be at his son's karate belt ceremony. And we learn early on that Howard is not very good at time management. He's not very good at keeping his promises to his very young son. And, that really sets up the mood for the movie. You start to feel bad for this kid that his dad's not there. But you also see that his dad is busting his ass, day before Christmas Eve, trying to make that money, trying to keep people happy. While we meet Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, there's a Christmas party that is going down like crazy in his office, similar to Die Hard, although this is a PG-rated movie, so nobody's doing coke or, banging in the offices. So finally, after hanging up with his wife and saying that she's his number 1 customer, which is one of the funniest parts in the first few minutes of this movie, Howard shows up late, goes home, tries to apologize to his son. His son's not having it. And funnily enough, his son goes into his room, and Howard walks in, and all over his son's wall is Captain America and Marvel characters. And I thought that was kind of funny. That was a badass room. I liked their house. Their house was great.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Howard's trying to reconcile with his son, he's just like, and his son is really giving it to him. He's like, you're always late. You never keep your promises. Mm-hmm. Why, you don't care about me, this, that, and the other.
Oh, yeah. Arnold's a douche in this movie.
A little bit. Yeah. He starts, he's definitely the absentee father, if you will. And that's, so yeah, similar to like the Santa Claus, Tim Allen is not as involved in his son's life. So as he's trying to apologize to Jamie, his son, played by Jake Lloyd, who all of us know as Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace, which notoriously ruined his career. So while they're having a little bit of reconciliation, Howard asks his son Jamie how he can make it up to him. He's like, I'm really sorry that I missed your karate. I'm sorry I missed these last few colors. I promise that I will do my best to be there for you from here on out. Is there anything I can do? Is there something special that you want for Christmas? Jamie's like, no, don't worry about it. I wrote Santa. And Howard's like, well, Santa's very busy this time of the year. He sometimes asks parents to get involved. Is there anything you want? Just tell me what you want. And Jamie goes into this whole literally commercial script about what he wants. And he wants the Turbo Man action figure with the arms and legs that move, the Rock'em Sock'em jetpack, and it has 3 Turbo Man sayings, including "It's Turbo Time," accessories sold separately, batteries not included. And I love that line too, because he's just like, accessories sold separately, batteries not included. And Howard's like, well, I'm glad you had some time to think about it. Jesus Christ. Like, it was just so funny. And of course, Turbo Man at that point in time in life in this universe of Jingle All the Way is the hottest fucking thing on the planet.
It was the Tickle Me Elmo of that fucking movie. It was the Cabbage Patch Kid of that movie.
Yeah. And which, of course, Jingle All the Way is based off of the madness craze of the 1980s Cabbage Patch Kid, and then very recently after Jingle All the Way was released, because Jingle All the Way was released in July of 1996, Tickle Me Elmo came out shortly after, and everybody watched Jingle All the Way with hilarity because that's exactly what people were doing to get a Tickle Me Elmo. So Howard goes into bed with his wife, who's played by Rita Wilson, who we all know is Tom Hanks' wife. She's been in several movies. She's in That Thing You Do. She's in From the Earth to the Moon. A lot of Tom Hanks produced things. She's also been in a couple other things without involving Tom Hanks, which is great. I've always liked Rita Wilson. I've always thought that she was very attractive. So he's telling his wife that they really reconciled and they had a lot of fun. They were drawing, they were talking about comic books, and he's very excited that Jamie wants this Turbo Man. And his wife says to him, that reminds me, you got the doll, right? And he looks at her with complete and utter dread in his face. The doll? She goes, yeah, I asked you to pick one up like 2 weeks ago. He goes, oh, yeah, the Turbo Man doll with this jetpack and the sayings like Turbo Time. Yeah, I got it. Don't worry about it. I got it. And she's like, well, thank God for that, because right now they'd be impossible to find. And the next shot is the Morticia-lit Arnold Schwarzenegger with the soft lighting across his eyes, and he just sits there with a wide-eyed face like, oh, fuck. Next day is Christmas Eve. He decides he's going to tell his wife that he's going to the office because he left the doll there. No, he didn't. He's going to try and find a Turbo Man doll on Christmas fucking Eve. This was shot in Minnesota around Mall of America, which is definitely shown in this film. So all the toy stores that he goes to are practical toy stores. Nice. It's not like, built or anything like that. It still makes me crack up. One of the first stores he goes to. And this is when we meet Myron, who is played by Sinbad. And good Lord. How incredible was Sinbad in this movie?
So good. 90s Sinbad was so fantastic and hilarious.
So fucking funny.
Last minute shopping, huh?
Yeah.
Enough to drive a man insane, ain't it? Myron Larrabee.
Howard Langston.
See, I have to shop late because it's the busiest time of year for me. All these important Christmas letters that people send to folks they don't even talk to but once a year. Not to mention relatives sending presents they gonna have to send back anyway. How many toiletry kits does a man need? How about these little stupid letters from kids to Santa at the North Pole?
Dear Santa, could you send me a bike and a slinky?
No, your father's been laid off. And as if I didn't have enough pressure in my life, my son sends me out for some, goofy butt toy. Some fruity robot named Turtle Man.
It's Turbo Man. My son wants one, too.
You know it's all a ploy, don't you?
A ploy?
Man, where have you been? Don't you watch TV? We are being set up by rich and powerful toy cartels.
Oh, come on.
Now you got these big fat cats sit there using working class just like me and you. They spend billions of dollars on TV advertisement, and then they sit there and use subliminal messages to suck your children's minds out. And I know what I'm talking about because I went to junior college for a semester and I studied psychology, so I'm right in there. I know what's going on.
And oddly enough, now people look at Jingle All the Way and like, this movie's so materialistic. Yes and no.
Welcome to America and
welcome
capitalism?
to the world. Right, exactly.
No shit.
Yeah.
For sure. This movie's materialistic.
It really is. Yeah. And as much as I want to be like, it's really not, it is, because we all want stuff for Christmas, whether that's a brand new pillowcase or, the next surround sound system, whatever you want to. So after we meet Myron, we end up learning that Howard is going to be on this wild goose chase, likely for the rest of the day. And at one point or another, we're back hanging out with Jamie and Howard's wife, and we are introduced to Ted. And Ted is the divorcee neighbor in the neighborhood. He's the one that all the single moms go to if they need their light bulb fixed or their doorbell changed or whatever you want. And this character is played absolutely magnificently by the late and absolute great Phil Hartman. For those of you that don't know who Phil Hartman is, look him up. SNL alumni, SNL gold, and movies upon movies after that. And very, very unfortunately, he was taken away from us in the late 90s, very tragically.
Yes.
I will never forget the day that it happened. I remember waking up and my parents watching the news, and they were like, Phil Hartman died. I was like, what happened? Like, it looks like his wife might have killed him in the bathroom or something like that. Like, she had a mental breakdown, and it was a damper on majority of the country's lives because he was such a cherished comedic actor. Like, he made everybody laugh. And this role of his as Ted is another comedic gold moment for Phil Hartman.
It is. And
so hysterical.
I always had a really big soft spot and special place in my heart for Phil Hartman. Because I did watch SNL in the early 90s and he was absolutely hysterical in it. But more touching to me and actually my whole family is that our last name is McClure, and he played Troy McClure on The Simpsons.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh my gosh, he voice acts this washed up actor in The Simpsons. And every single time you see him when he guest starred, he would say, "Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such films as," and they're like the most ridiculously titled films you've ever heard in your life.
That is awesome.
And one of my favorites is when he's on an infomercial and he's like, "Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such self-help films as Smoke Yourself Thin and Get Confident, Stupid."
That is so fucking funny.
Yeah.
I've still never watched The Simpsons. I got to check that out.
Oh gosh,
Maybe send me that episode.
I have to, because he was a great voice actor for The Simpsons as well.
Yeah, he did many voice actors. He was a voice actor in The Page Master with Macaulay Culkin. And he was in an episode of Seinfeld. Then he did Jingle All the Way. He was in, I don't know if it's necessarily one of my favorite movies, but he was great in it. He was in Small Soldiers, which we talked about not too long ago. Yeah, very, very great actor and hilarious as Ted in this movie. He and Rita Wilson play off each other very well, but he and Schwarzenegger really play off each other really fucking well.
And even though he doesn't share any scenes with him, Sinbad is also in this movie, and he and Sinbad acted in a movie together the year before, and it was called House Guest.
Yes.
And my sister and I thought that was one of the funniest fucking movies of the 90s. God, we had a good time watching that. I need to watch that again because I haven't seen it in years.
It's been decade plus for me at least. Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, so he was great. I can't say enough great things about him, but God, is he just a sleazy guy in this movie.
He really is, yeah. There's, I'm sure it might have been one of the parts that you were laughing the hardest at is there's a moment where Howard, it's late in the day, Howard's got to call his wife and just give her a bit of an update because not only is Howard trying to track down this doll, this is Christmas Eve and it's the day of the Holiday Wintertainment Parade, and Turbo Man is going to be at the Holiday Wintertainment Parade, and Jamie really wants his father to be there with him and his mom because it's the Wintertainment Parade, it's Christmas, Turbo Man's going to be there, and so Howard's got to call his wife, give her a bit of an update as to where exactly he is. And Jamie is playing in the living room with Johnny, his neighbor, played by E.G. De La Pena. And Johnny is Phil Hartman's son. Phil Hartman shows up in the house, unexpected, kind of almost unwelcome. And he goes, "Look at you, Mother of the Year and slaving over cookies, yada, yada, yada." And he's... And then he all of a sudden's like, "You know what? Looks like you could use a little you time. Why don't you go upstairs, take a shower, and I'll finish these cookies?" She goes, "Well, the recipe goes, don't worry. I know the recipe on hot for $3.50 for 10 minutes. Don't worry." And she's like, "Yeah, I got it." And he's putting on the apron and whatnot. And then he decides to take a bite of a cookie as the phone rings. Then this is where it really gets pretty great for me. I'm sure for you too. He answers the phone. He goes, "Langston Residence." And Howard's like, "Hi, Ted? He goes, Howard, hey, buddy, where you at? And he's just like, I need to talk to my wife. He goes, I think she's in the shower. You want me to go check? And he's like, no! He starts screaming at him. He's like, no, just tell her I'm going to be a little late. But he's not paying attention because he's eating Liz's cookies. And he is orgasmically eating these cookies. And it is so hysterical because Howard is not down with Ted eating his cookies.
Or Ted at all. He hates Ted.
Ted at all, exactly, yeah. There's a lot of animosity for Ted. Mm-hmm. And I just love this, like, I love when Howard's like, who told you could eat my cookies? Yeah. And he's like, put that cookie down now! And he's in the middle of downtown on a payphone, mind you.
Merry Christmas, Langston residents.
Hi, Ted?
Howard! Hey, buddy. How's it going out there? Everything okay?
Yeah, fine. Ted, I need to speak to Liz. Could you get...
Oh, Howard, excuse me, but your wife's cookies are out of this world.
Who told you you can eat my cookies?
I'm just helping Liz out a little in the kitchen. She's making up a storm here.
Ted, I need to speak to my wife. So could you get her on the phone, please?
I think she's in the shower, Howard. Do you want me to go check?
No! I mean, no, that's fine. On your way out, just tell her I will be a few minutes late, but you shouldn't worry.
Oh, she won't worry. I mean, I'm here and... Oh, these cookies! I gotta get the recipe from Liz.
Put that cookie down! Now!
And that I just love that movie, that part of the movie so much. So after we do meet Myron, played by Sinbad, Sinbad just keeps kind of showing up, and he's trying to partner up with Arnold Schwarzenegger's character Howard. The cool thing about all the dialogue between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad, 100% improvised all the way through. Schwarzenegger improvised, and Sinbad threw everything on the table.
Oh, fantastic.
And still kept it PG. That was the whole thing about Sinbad, was he was family-related comedy, like clean comedy. And not that you need to be clean to be funny or vulgar to be funny. Sinbad just delivered it the right way, and that's really what makes this movie work.
God, their back and forth, it makes this movie fantastic.
Yeah, it really does. So, store after store, miles after miles, unable to find a Turbo Man. Howard standing in a toy store. There's a Turbo Man cardboard cutout giving him the Turbo Man salute. He beats the shit out of it. After he punches it and it comes back and smacks him in the back of the head, and then he just destroys it in the toy store. And everybody's looking at him like he's nuts. I would do the same goddamn thing if I could not find my kid a toy. Granted, and this is true, I am Howard in this situation. I do wait until the last fucking minute to buy gifts.
Same,
I don't
dude,
know why.
same.
And that's maybe why this movie resonates with me so well, even so late in life. I also really like the, in a strange way, I like the physical violence in this movie because it is comical. There's
it's almost slapstick comedy.
Very much so, yeah. Early on, when Myron and Howard learned that there's been that Turbo Man drop at the Mall of America, Myron smacks Howard down with his bag of mail because Myron, we actually didn't get into this, Myron is a mail carrier, and he is out supposed to be delivering packages for the United States Postal Service, but he's out trying to get his kid a Turbo Man doll as well. And I will always remember that as a kid being like, oh my gosh, parents really will cut throats to get their kids a fucking toy. So that's pretty much the premise of Jingle All the Way. I've got a little bit of trivia to drop on our listeners that I thought was definitely fascinating. So production lasted 5 weeks in Minnesota. It began on April 15th of 1996. Oddly enough, the film was released November 16th of 1996. That's a quick fucking turnaround. Now, granted,
that's impossible or unheard of now, given all the work in post.
Yeah. And you think about Jingle All the Way, there's very little visual effects. Majority of it is practical effects, and majority of it is really just dialogue. I mean, there's a few stunts going on between the hour and a half of the movie, but overall, this is definitely a film that could be shot in April through May and be ready for release in November. And Arnold Schwarzenegger and the producers held the world premiere of the movie at Mall of America. They shut down the mall. They had a whole day full of events, and Schwarzenegger ended up donating a lot of memorabilia from the movie to the Mall of America, Planet Hollywood. Speaking of Planet Hollywood from our previous movie. Well, I thought that was pretty cool. Chris Columbus was a producer on this film. Chris Columbus was the director of Home Alone, and he originally wanted Joe Pesci to play Myron. And the reason why Joe Pesci was not actually cast was because Schwarzenegger was too tall.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, Schwarzenegger had done Twins with Danny DeVito.
I was just going to say,
yeah. So he's been around. He's done some movies with short people, but Joe Pesci did not make the cutoff with his height. Schwarzenegger is on record saying that he had nothing but a blast shooting this movie, and he still loves the movie to this day.
Aww.
And I'm glad to hear that because I do too. It's 25 years old, and I love the fact that it still holds up. I love the fact that it is enjoyed by the masses still, and those that haven't seen it, I post on my Instagram when I'm watching, and they're like, I haven't seen that movie. I'm like, you gotta watch it. And a few days later, I will get messages like, that was a great movie. I'm like, yes, it is. It's a great fucking movie. Schwarzenegger and Rita Wilson did nothing but praise Phil Hartman, because how can you not? They said that he was an absolute joy to work with. Regardless of his slimy character, he really was quite the gem on set. And in 1996, the studio decided that they were going to release several hundred Turbo Man action figures. And there are still a few out there, and they are now considered collector's items, and who the hell knows how much they're worth. If anything, sometimes they might be, sometimes they won't be.
Gotta look that up on eBay.
Oh, there you go. While you're doing that, I will go into a little bit more trivia. The budget of this film was $75 million. $75 million for Jingle All the Way.
More than double Die Hard. Granted,
yes,
it was
exactly.
8 years later, but still.
Right. But you think $75 million, practical locations, practical special effects, still a little bit of green screen special effects for the Turbo Man TV show that they had to incorporate into the movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger was paid $20 million of that $75 million. So
shit.
After Schwarzenegger was paid his $20, there was only $55 million left.
Okay, a screen used Turbo Man, Dementor, and Booster, so all three of them. Actually,
nobody likes you, Booster.
That our original props are for sale on eBay right now for $8,700.
Holy fuck! Oh my god!
And a screen-used Jingle All the Way Turbo Man by itself is on eBay right now for $400.
Wow! So the set is almost $10,000.
Yeah.
And even though nobody likes Booster, which is one thing that's hilarious.
Booster, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
So if they were used in the movie, they are now worth a shit ton of money.
Damn, that's pretty cool. All right, well, there you go. I like that. It makes sense.
They're
it's
props,
like props in movies.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what it is. They are props.
Christmas is coming.
Christmas is coming, everybody. If you want a Turbo Man, eBay's the place. That's nuts. Wow. The Turbo Man doll was modeled after the Flash, which I thought was fascinating.
Oh, wait, no, that's Flash Gordon.
No, that's Flash Gordon.
Sorry.
The Wintertainment Parade, towards the end of the film, how long do you think it took to shoot that?
I would say 5 days.
3 weeks.
Fuck!
3 weeks with 1,500 extras. And they shot it on the Universal Studios lot in May. It was hot as fuck. It
my God.
was so hot.
So miserable with all of those costumes of coats and scarves on. Fuck, 3 weeks?
Most definitely.
God damn it.
3 weeks to shoot the Wintertainment Parade. So you think 5-week production schedule
of the movie.
The rest of the
Jesus fuck.
Nuts, right?
That's insane.
Absolutely insane.
That's insane.
So crazy. Daniel Stern was actually considered for Myron as well. And for those that don't know who Daniel Stern is, if you've ever seen Home Alone, he's the wet bandit. W-E-T-B. Get in the car! He's the one with the curly hair that steps on the nail that everybody thinks is like the worst part of Home Alone.
It is.
I still think it's the freaking iron to the face, to be honest with you. And as much as I love Home Alone, I want a tarantula, and I don't think I'd ever react like Daniel Stern did when the tarantula's on his face.
His scream is fantastic.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Oh god, he's also one of Billy Crystal's friends in City Slickers.
That's right, yeah. One other thing before we get into my favorite part, Robin Williams, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, and Steve Martin were all also considered for Howard.
Wow. I like that it was a more serious person.
I do too. I think it really worked with Schwarzenegger because we have beyond Kindergarten Cop and Last Action Hero, we hadn't really seen Schwarzenegger in a full comedy. And as funny as Kindergarten Cop is, it's more of a serious police film, whereas Jingle All the Way is family oriented, Christmas oriented, and truly hysterical from beginning to end.
Absolutely.
And yeah, well, I'm glad you feel that way. I mentioned that the budget was $75 million. Schwarzenegger got 20 of that 75. The worldwide gross of Jingle All the Way was $129 million. The other films that were released around the time of Jingle All the Way, November of 1996, a film that we have actually discussed here on Movies You Missed very early on, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes, Romeo and Juliet. November 1996 also gave us the release of my most favorite Next Generation film, Star Trek First Fucking Contact. If you've ever seen that film.
So good.
So
fucking
God
good.
Damn good. That is the masterpiece of the Next Generation films, in my opinion. Jonathan Frakes as director. Everybody's there. It was such a killer movie. The Borg shit was so awesome.
So good.
Oh, the whole thing with Data and the Borg Queen. Absolutely spectacular. When I worked on Star Trek Picard last year and Brent Spiner showed up, I kind of had a frozen moment where I was just like, oh shit. Not only is it Data, but it's fucking Dr. Oaken from Into Fucking Pendence Day.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. So a lot of good movies came out in November of 1996. Again, big fan of this film. It received $12.1 million in its opening weekend. It came in at number 4, right behind Star Trek First Contact, so that was kind of fun. Also behind Space Jam and Ransom, and Space Jam was the highest grossing film at the time in 1996 of November. And if anybody's anybody, you saw Space Jam in the theater just like I fucking did, because how the hell can you not go to the theater for fucking Space Jam? Never mind this bullshit with LeBron James. Space Jam OG Michael Jordan Looney Tunes, that's the shit right there.
Never seen it.
What the fuck? Are you kidding me? V, what the hell? How have you never seen Space Jam?
Audience, you should have seen the face that John just made at me.
Oh my God. How have you never seen Space Jam? Oh, man. Anyway, we have already done 1996 with Romeo and Juliet, so we've done the highest grossing film of 1996. A literally masterpiece of a year for cinema, in my opinion. And number 1 is one of my most favorite films of all time, and I believe I had you guess it when we did our Romeo and Juliet episode, and I wonder if you might remember it.
Yes, that's Independence Day.
That is Independence Day ID4, yes. And number 2 was a film that your sister was screaming at the radio apparently while listening to this.
Because I didn't guess it the last one of the times we've talked about it, but we've talked about it many times because Bill Paxton is beloved on this show. That is Twister.
Absolutely. Twister, yes. Number 3, Mission Impossible. Number 4, The Rock. Number 5, the Eddie Murphy, and I mean Eddie Murphy-led The Nutty Professor. Number 6 was Ransom. Number 7, a film we've talked about several times, The Birdcage. Number 8 was A Time to Kill with Sandra Bullock, Samuel Jackson, and Matthew McConaughey, which I've not seen, but I hear is a great film.
It is good. It's intense, but good.
Oh, yes. Number 9 was 101 Dalmatians with Jeff Daniels. Number 10 was The First Wives Club with Bette Midler. And number 11, another Schwarzenegger-led film with Vanessa Williams, Eraser.
God damn, what a good
I think
lineup.
James Caan's in that one, too.
He is.
Yeah, Eraser's badass. And, let's not forget, number 13, Disney animated, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And number 14 was Star Trek First Contact. Number 15, Space Jam, which I still am just unbelievably shocked that you've never seen. And number 25 of 1996, scratching the top 50, ladies and gentlemen, not the top 100, the top 50, Jingle All the Way.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's Jingle All the Way. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sinbad, Phil Hartman, Rita Wilson, Jake Lloyd. awesome holiday Christmas movie, still brings the laughs like full force, and it's really a great film. And if you've never seen Jingle All the Way, please do give it a shot, especially now in December. If you're a parent, yeah, I think it might resonate with you, especially if you're our age, over 30, short from 40. And it is available on Starz for streaming if you have a subscription to Starz. So, ladies and gentlemen, please do give it a shot. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time, and I'm so glad that I was able to introduce you listeners and reintroduce you to Jingle All the Way.
Yes, because I had really only seen it once in my really early 20s, I think. I had forgotten everything about that movie except one small scene.
Fantastic.
I know you've already mentioned this is a very family-friendly movie, but we always do this on the podcast. John, would you watch your movie with your grandma?
Oh, absolutely, and I already have, yes.
Nice.
Not this year, but in the past, I've definitely watched Jingle All the Way with my grandmother.
Awesome. Yeah, I think any kid over the age of like 9 could totally watch that movie and have a good time with it.
Absolutely.
Parents especially,
children,
too, though.
Oh, yeah. It's a very relatable movie. Would you watch Die Hard with your grandma, V?
Definitely with my cop grandma, for sure.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Could you imagine it's like Grandma McClure, just like, welcome to the party, pal.
She was a badass, that's for sure. And my dad actually isn't a big fan of Bruce Willis, and so he doesn't really watch the Die Hard movies, but I would say anybody who's a teenager and above can watch this movie. It's more violence and language than anything else. There are no sex scenes, but they do say fuck a whole lot of times.
Yeah, they do. I completely agree with that. And with Jingle All the Way, like you said, but like 7, 8, 9 years old, totally perfect. And again, with Jingle All the Way, there's no way a 7, 8, or 9-year-old's really going to put it together that their parents are going through that kind of turmoil to get them what they want for Christmas. But when they're old enough, they definitely will.
Yeah, exactly. So that kicks off our first week of our Christmas month. We're very excited to continue with this for the next few weeks. John, do you want to tell everyone what your movie pick is next week?
I do, actually, yes. This is a film that I was always excited to see when it was advertised. I'm a big Nancy Meyers fan, and Nancy Meyers wrote What Women Want. She directed What Women Want with Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt. She wrote and directed Something's Gotta Give with Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton. And she also wrote and directed this film with Jude Law, Jack Black, Cameron Diaz, and Kate Winslet. And this is The Holiday, everybody. I love The Holiday so much. It is a cheeseball romantic comedy set around Christmas, but good Lord, does it make me laugh, and does it really get me in the feels. And I really can't complain about the soundtrack because Imogen Heap is all over it, and I love some Imogen Heap.
Same. God, what happened to her?
She's doing her thing, right? I follow her Instagram.
Okay.
She is always doing stuff. I don't know when her next album's coming out, but the cool thing about Imogen Heap is I ended up really getting into Imogen Heap when she was with Frou Frou, actually.
Yes, God.
And yeah,
such a
Frou Frou, great group.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. So yeah, The Holiday. I saw it in theaters with my mother, and it is currently streaming right now on Hulu if you have a subscription.
Nice.
What are you going to do, V?
I am following the theme of being home away from home. And I picked the Macaulay Culkin-led Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Fuck yeah. And what I'm going to do is watch Home Alone and then Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, because that's how you got to do it.
Of course.
Hell yeah.
And they are both on Disney Plus if you have a subscription. Well, that's our show, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, please feel free to follow us on social media. We are at Movies You Miss Pod. You can always reach out to us. Our email address is moviesyoumisspod@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Reviews are so important. If you listen to us on the Apple Podcast app, please take a few minutes before the year is over to leave us a review. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you do leave us a review before the end of the year, you know, there's a sticker promotion cracking down right now.
That's right. We have a sticker promotion for anyone who leaves us a review. We will send you a sticker of our podcast.
Yes. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on our 34th episode. We are winding down towards the end of the year. It's kind of been a blur, in all honesty. I've had nothing but fun recording these episodes with UV every week. And we like to sign off here at Movies You Missed with film as a form of art. And in art, all opinions are valid, except if you think
Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie.
Hey!
I will.
Why did I know that was going to be it?
I will die on that hill.
Hey, you'll die hard on that hill. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us, and we will see you next week. Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.